Okay, good afternoon, everyone. We're here again. I hope I do a better broadcast today. Uh, but if I do something wrong, send me a message, all right? Either through your text messages or our chat group here on YouTube or our chat group here on our Google Classroom. Before anything else, let me share to you my screen, with you my screen. Let's have our attendance check. All right, where's our attendance check? Have I posted it? Not yet. Okay, here's our attendance check for today. Please fill it out. Okay, there you go. Attendance, day 5. Oh my God, 5th day already. Woo. Okay. Uh, our topic for today, I've already posted it earlier. What's our topic for today? All right. I have not. I have. Nope, I have not. Oh my God, I have not posted our topic for today. Well, our topic for today is this. Let me give you this. Okay. Terms. What are we going to talk about today? Terms. The basic units of a language. Remember? What is a term? All right. What is a language? A language is a system of units realizable in some sensory medium, only certain combinations of which have meaning by convention, and hence useful for communication. All right? So, before anything else, let me give you a copy of, wait, I don't want you to see my, uh, my password. Just look at my face while I'm taking care of my uploading of a material for you. I am uploading a material that will be a reminder when you review of what we are talking about today. What are we going to talk about today? Terms. I've just pointed out. All right. There you go. Our topic for today here. Okay. Let me share you the screen. There you go. Terms, all right? Should be useful for you as a reminder of what's going on when you do your review. Now, here it is, terms. Our language, our definition of language, technical definition of language. Language is a system of units realizable in some sensory medium, only certain combinations of which have meaning by convention, and hence useful for communication, and in addition, enhancing or facilitating your capacity to transfer and accumulate knowledge. In addition, enhancing or facilitating your capacity to think. In addition, enhancing or facilitating your capacity to perceive. There you go. But let's loosen up by answering some questions. Remember, we have our Mentimeters. All right. Let's see. All right. These are the Mentimeter discussion for today. Let's see how you will answer these questions. All right. Okay. First question. Well, First survey. I am aware of what cyberspace is. You say yes, no, or no answer. What do you think? Yes, of course. What's life without Facebook? All right. Cyberspace and Facebook. Oh, you are not aware of what cyberspace is? Oh, well, that's all right. I've never heard of the expression cyberspace until I've come to UP. So that's not a problem. I am aware of what cyberspace is. Okay. Most of you are saying yes, 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 yes. And only a couple of you are saying no. All right. We'll get back to cyberspace in detail later. All right. Let's move on. Okay, most of you are saying, okay, you know what cyberspace is. Next question. Cyberspace is not real. All right, cyberspace is not real. So what's happening? Our broadcast is happening in cyberspace. You play your games like, what's your favorite game? Vegetables versus the zombies. All right, you play that game in cyberspace. What's my favorite game? What's your favorite game? Favorite game? Mobile Legends. That takes place in cyberspace. All right. Now, is cyberspace real? All right. And people say, no, it is not real. All right. Let me remind you. There is here the word not. So if you say no, not, that's double negation. You're saying cyberspace is real. All right. Cyberspace is not real. 18 are saying, no, 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 no. Cyberspace is real. One is saying yes. Oh, no, no. Two. Two are saying yes, it's not real. Okay. We have outliers again. Very good. All right. There you go. Almost everyone is saying cyberspace is real. All right. By saying no, it is not. No, not real. Therefore, you're saying it's real. Very good. Next question. My thoughts are in cyberspace. Oh, you think? Yes. We've just pointed out language can facilitate thinking. Yes. So, where is thinking happening? Where are your thoughts? Are they in cyberspace or not? No answer. No. Your thoughts are not in cyberspace. Oh, yes, your thoughts are in cyberspace. All right, what's going on? Looks like the class is not able to decide. All right, now we have a dominant group saying no, 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 no. My thoughts are not in cyberspace. Okay, your thoughts are not in cyberspace. What does that mean? You see, uh, your thoughts are in your mind. You reflect on what you observe around you in your mind. Now, where's your mind? Is it in cyberspace? Where are your thoughts? If your thoughts are not in cyberspace, are your thoughts physical? All right. Next question. Okay. Takes a while for many of you to decide. Understandable. And 5 have no answer. There are more of you now who have no answer. Earlier, we only had 1 or 2. My thoughts are physical, material in nature. All right. Are your thoughts physical or material in nature? What do you think? No, they're not physical. Okay. Yes, they are. All right. Ayan. Now what? Think about it. Your thoughts are physical or not? Material or not? No, 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 no. All right. There you go. What about the others? Okay. But no one says no answer. All right. You are sure about what you're saying. All right. Okay. Let's review. One, most of you will say, you know what cyberspace is all about. Okay. And then most of you will say, cyberspace is real. All right. Okay. And then you're saying, your thoughts are in cyberspace. Most of you will say no, but almost the same, saying yes. All right. And then most of you will say no, my thoughts are not physical or material in nature. All right. Remember our discussion? Do you remember our discussions? What did we say? We said earlier that language facilitates thinking, yes? And what is language? It's all about terms. And terms, you put together, you have sentences. And how do you express your thoughts? You express your thoughts in terms of sentences. So what are your thoughts? Remember, we've just pointed out terms are what? Physical, material in nature. That's why I asked you to watch the movie. Plants versus the zombies. Oo nga, vegetables. Vegetable. All right. Let's get back to what we're talking about. Let me share with you our couple of slides on terms. That's our topic. All right. And then we're saying when we do experiments, remember the first thing that your teacher will ask you to do, define your terms. So here we know what terms are. They're the basic units of all languages and they have meaning. There you go. They have the dimension of meaning. Terms have meaning. We already pointed out. The relationship between a term and its meaning, it's not functional, it's not mathematical, it's not natural, it's not biological, it is conventional. All right? We dealt with that. Okay? Now, the takeaway for this discussion now will be about theories of meaning. And in addition, takeaway from this discussion, you will deal with conceptual frameworks. All right, here it is, conceptual framework. All right. So there are 3 takeaways. What are your 3 takeaways after this class? You will know what referential theory of meaning is. That's one. You'll know what ideational theory of meaning is. That's another. And the third takeaway would be you will know what a conceptual framework is all about. There you go. Now, let's get back to our Jamboard. Remember, that's the reason why I requested you to take a look at that movie. All right? We are actually harping on, emphasizing, insisting that what? Terms are physical, material, all right, in nature. Meaning to say, you need physical, material medium with which you can communicate your terms. No medium, you cannot communicate. You know, like that soldier that I asked you to, I asked you to see the movie of. All right? Because terms, as we have said, are physical, material in nature. Oh, yeah, material. All right? Because terms are physical, material in nature, needing some physical, material medium, we consider them, therefore, as tools. All right? Tools. And guess what? What are tools? Tools are things that we use. Tools are things that we use. Question. All right? What for do you use your terms? All right? How do you use your terms? All right? Let's move on. So, we have an answer. What's our answer? Well, we use terms to point out. All right? What do we use terms for? We use terms to point out with. All right? What do we use terms for? We use them to point out with. All right? Another way of saying that, we use terms to identify with. All right? Identify with. All right? Another way of saying that, we use terms to, what else? We use terms to refer with. All right? Refer with. The bias of professors, the preference of professors like me, is this expression. We use terms to refer with. All right? But you can still use this or this if you like. So that's how you use a term. For example, I have a table. When I say table, I refer or I identify or I point out the table. All right? The table on which my computer is on. Table for me, table for you. All right? But guess what? All right, let's get back to our screen. What do we refer with? What do we identify with? What do we refer with? What do we point out with? We use our terms. All right? The terms are what we use to refer with. What are you referring to? All right? Let's get back to me. What are you referring to? What are you pointing to? Well, in our case, we're pointing to the table. Table, all right? So you will tell me, sir, that's a table. Guess what? My table is so old. I've been teaching here for 35 years, and what can the university give me? An old table that is a piece of trash. Something that is an insult. So, for you, my table is a table. For me, it is an insult. I feel insulted with it. We have a janitor who has no money. He cannot afford to buy gas with which he can cook. So, our janitor, when he gets to see my old table, he says, wow, one of these days that will be firewood for me. Oh, I'm so happy. All right? So, for you, this thing is a table. For me, it is an insult. For our janitor, it is a piece of firewood. So, what are we pointing to when we refer to something with the word table, with the word insult, with the word firewood, a piece of panggatong? All right? Well, a piece of antique. Maybe valuable, yes. You know, this might have come from the old University of the Philippines before the war. Who knows? All right, so let's get back to this. When you point out, when you identify, when you refer with your terms, you're referring to what we call meaning. All right? Meaning. Yan. All right? So you have a term, and then you have a meaning of the term. And as we pointed out, they are related to one another. They are interconnected. All right? So far, so good. Let me repeat. All right? Let me repeat. Okay? When we point out, all right, let me repeat. When we point out, When we identify, when we refer, we use the term to identify, point out, refer to some kind of meaning. Alright? And as we have already said, our terms are related to some meanings. Alright? Okay. That should be better. Alright? Now. There are two classic theories of meaning. Now, before I even talk about those classic theories of meaning, let me talk about fish. What? Fish. You know what a fish is? You go to a lake, you catch a fish. All right? When you catch a fish, if it is juvenile, a young fish, you return it to the lake. If it is an adult, then you can eat it. All right? If it is an adult, then you can eat it. Question, how do you know the fish is juvenile or adult? Very easy. You interview it. Oh, where were you born? Oh, how old are you? No, of course not. How do you know your fish is juvenile or adult? You measure it. All right? You measure it with some kind of measurement from your biologist. And you say, if the operculum of the fish is equal to or greater than this, then you say the fish is adult. If it is less than, then you say it's juvenile. Then you know finally the fish is juvenile or adult. All right? Similarly, you should notice that we also measure terms. We also measure terms. How? All right? We also measure terms. As if a term is a fish. All right? How do you measure terms? Well, put it this way. Remember, terms are tools. All right? Some tools are good, some tools are bad, some tools are better, best. Depends. All right? In other words, your term can be what? Your term can be meaningful. All right? Your term can be meaningful. Or your term can be meaningless. It's like your fish. Your fish can be juvenile or your fish can be an adult. So if it's meaningful, that's okay. If it's meaningless, you have a problem. All right? So when you measure your term, you can say, well, either the term is meaningful, check, or it's meaningless, check. If your term is meaningless, then you have a problem. If your term is meaningful, then we have another question. All right, supposing your term is meaningful, all right? If your term is meaningful, then we have another question. The question is the meaning clear or is the meaning unclear? All right? It is possible there is a meaning to the term, but then the possibility is that between the meanings of the term, between the term being clear and unclear, you can make the distinction. Or put it this way. Finally, you know your term is meaningful. So now it's meaningful. It can mean it's clearly meaningful or it's not so clear. There you go. If the term is unclear, then there are two ways by which your terms can be clear or unclear. What are the two ways by which you can say the term is clear or unclear? One, you can say the term is vague, or you can say the term is ambiguous. Vague or ambiguous. All right. Example. Vagueness. How do you distinguish between beautiful and ugly. Beautiful, ugly. How do you distinguish between beautiful and ugly? How do you distinguish uh, between intelligent and unintelligent? All right? Intelligent and not intelligent. All right? Notice that for the most part, and I think many of you will agree, the difference, the boundary between beautiful and ugly is a gray area. It's not so clear. Similarly, the distinction between intelligent and not intelligent, it is also not so clear. That's when you have vagueness. All right? Now, ambiguity, that's another matter. Ambiguity, let me give you an example of ambiguity. So, let me give you an example of ambiguity. All right? You know, there are many things that I do. I go scuba diving, I do taekwondo, I do cycling, I go swimming, I do mountaineering, I do bird watching, I do photography. I like doing things. And when I do things, I like to see the step-by-step ways I can make what I'm doing better. So that's why I like to do things. I want to see how I do things better. I have this principle. My principle is what? All right. The end of things. What things? Things that I do is perfection. So if I learn a new kick in Taekwondo, I want to be able to do it perfectly. If I know a specific technique for photography, I want to perfect it. So the end of things is perfection. Now what? Somebody tells me death is the end of life. So now I can say, what can I say? I can say death is the perfection of life. All right. Anybody who believes this, raise your hand. Of course not. That's stupid. That's crazy. You want to perfect your life? Kill yourselves. Are you going to do that? Now, what's the problem with this? You have ambiguity. All right. You have ambi. All right. That's the prefix, guity. You have ambiguity. You see, focus on the term and there and then here. In the first sentence, and, all right, in the first sentence, and, what you mean is goal or aim. Goal or aim. In the second sentence, and is something else. And in the second sentence is termination. All right? Goal and termination may be similar, but they are not the same. Goal and termination are similar, but they are not the same. For example, what is my goal? I want to talk to the chancellor of the university. So what do? I walk in the direction of the university. So that's my goal. That's my aim. Talk to the chancellor. However, as I walk to the administration building, my wife calls me and says, "Wait. You still have to finish your laundry. All right? Please do your laundry. Finish it." Yes, dear. All right? So, what's going on? What happens is my walk becomes terminated. And I am not able, therefore, to attain my goal. So what have I just shown you? I have just shown you that goal and termination may be different. They are not the same. All right? Now, in this argument here, we seem to think that and can mean the same thing, but in fact, there are two of them. That's why the expression ambi, as in ambivalent, or as ambidextrous, you mean two or more. All right? Two or more. So, that's when you have confusion. That's when your term becomes unclear. You get confused. So, there are two ways by which your term can be unclear. One, your term is vague. All right? In other words, the boundary between your term and those beyond your term is unclear. All right? The boundary is hazy or a gray area. And then, what's the other one? The other one is, of course, as we now point here, ambiguous. Your term can be ambiguous. All right. There you go, ambiguity. 1, 2. Okay? Confusion. You end up with a stupid conclusion. Death is the perfection of life. Yeah. All right? Now, let's get back to what we were dealing with earlier. You have a term. All right? And your term is meaningful or not. So you have meaning, no meaning. When you have meaning, it can be clear, unclear. All right? If it is unclear, then it is either vague or ambiguous. All right? Now, what about being clear? When your term is clear, what are you saying? What do you mean by your term being clear? Clarity. All right? Clarity of your term, it being clear, has to be clear to you. Clarity, let me repeat that, being clear has to be clear to you. You don't get confused. How do you do that? You should have a measure of what you mean when your term is clear or not. All right? So what's your measure? There you go. What's your norm? Okay, so far so good. And that's when you get to have a theory of meaning. So you have a term that you want to measure. Okay. You have a term that you want to measure. It's like a piece of fish that you want to measure. And what is your measure or your norm? What is your measure or your norm? Your measure or your norm is what you call your theory of meaning. All right? That's what a theory is for. A theory with which you can measure something. And here you have your theory of meaning, and there are two of them as we are concerned. All right? There are two classic theories of meaning. All right. 1, 2. One of the theories has been made popular by Thomas Hobbes. The other has been made popular by John Locke. All right, John Locke. Now what? Well, that's why I'm here. I'm going to explain. Let's talk about Thomas Hobbes. Guess what? Thomas Hobbes was very lucky. Why? Because Thomas Hobbes was a good friend of, all right, Thomas Hobbes. Thomas Hobbes was a good friend of two people. One, Francis Bacon. All right. Francis Bacon was his first friend. And then he came to be a friend later of Galileo Galilei. Became a friend of Galileo Galilei. Now, why is this being lucky? Well, guess what? These two, Francis Bacon and Galileo, are the fathers of modern thought. Oh my God! In fact, I know only of Thomas Hobbes as being the father of the two. Sorry, I know only of Thomas Hobbes. Only Thomas Hobbes I know has been the friend of both fathers of modern thought. There you have it. Fathers of modern thought. Why are they called fathers of modern thought? Because they invented the scientific method. And therefore, they invented science. All right, scientific method. They invented it, and therefore, they invented science, and therefore, they invented modern life, and therefore, modern thought. All right? These two. And who's the common friend? This fellow, Thomas Hobbes. When did they live? All of them? 1500s to the 1600s. All right? They lived in that period. Okay. So what? Well, put it this way. Thomas Hobbes, the Englishman, had a big problem. What was his problem? Thomas Hobbes lived in England, and in England, there was civil war. All right? In England, there was civil war. And given the civil war, he wanted to find out how can he help fix matters for his society. All right? So that was his big question. How can I fix things so that my society will finally have peace and order? So, first question, what is a society? Galileo said, well, you know, the universe is a machine. That's what he said. And thanks to Galileo, here now is Thomas Hobbes, he says, well, Hobbes says, if the universe is a machine, then you're actually saying society is a machine. So question, how do you know what a machine is? All right? You're a kid playing with the remote control car, or you're a kid playing with a Barbie doll. How do you know what a Barbie doll is all about? How do you know what a remote control car is all about? Well, you get a screwdriver, and then you take the remote control apart, and then finally you get to see how the whole thing works. You get to see all the tools that make up the remote control car, and then finally you can say, well, I know how this machine works. Therefore, you know what your remote control car is all about. Same with society, you take it apart. What are the tools that make up society if it is a machine? And Hobbes says, well, the tools are called citizens. And citizens themselves are machines. If they are machines, then you get to ask the question, what are the tools that make up the citizens? Well, the citizen is a human body made up of muscles, all right? Made up of muscles and bones, all right? And so on and so forth. And guess what? In addition to muscles and bones and organs and tissues, the human body has another piece of tool called the mind. Now, it looks like the mind dominates the body. But what is the mind? The mind is another machine. The mind is another machine. What are the tools that make up the mind? Now, that's your question. What are the tools that make up the mind? And the answer of Thomas Hobbes is very simple. The tools that make up the mind are what you call words. There you go. Hobbes says, if you understand the nature of words, you'll understand the nature of the mind. If you understand the nature of the mind, you understand the nature of the body and therefore the nature of the citizen. If you understand the nature of the citizen, therefore you understand the nature of society. There you go. That's Thomas Hobbes. So Thomas Hobbes begins asking the question, what is a word? And Hobbes, the fellow interested in science, remember, just like Francis Bacon and Galileo, he was very much into science. And science is all about observation. All right? Science is about observation. And he knew the value of observation when it comes to knowledge, just like his two mentors. Now, what is it that you observe? You observe objects, remember? You observe objects, you sense objects. We talked about that earlier. What are the things that you sense? What are the things that you observe? They're called objects, physical objects, remember? And Hobbes concludes, words are names of objects, physical, material objects. All right? The scientist that he is, a social scientist that he is, a political scientist that he is, he says, words are names of physical objects. Well, no-brainer. Many of us think that way. It's no-brainer. When we are kids, how are we told about words? Where's the light? Where's the light? There's the light. Where's your nose? Where's your nose? Nose. Where's your eye? Where's your eye? Where's your ear? Where's your ear? All right? And Hobbes says, that's very natural. How do words have meaning? They are simply names of objects. We call this the referential theory of meaning. Referential theory of meaning. All right. Now, what's the implication? Well, if you understand the nature of words, you understand the nature of sentences, which you can put together, which you can construct with words. If you understand sentences, then you can understand arguments. And if you understand arguments, then you can understand reasoning. And if you understand reasoning, then you can understand the behavior of humans and therefore society. All right? Now, Hobbes says we have a problem. Why? Because while it is correct to say words are names of objects, ergo the referential theory of meaning, there is a limitation. There is a limitation. There are limits to this. Why? Because many words like the word of, or the word on, or the word who, or the word why, or the word when, or how, these are all meaningful words, and yet they are not names of objects. Besides, some words, even if the object name is gone, are still meaningful. In our case, in the Philippines, all right, say for example, Babylon. Babylon as a word used to be meaningful because it referred to an object. What object? The city of Babylon. But what about Babylon today? The city is gone. Therefore, the word Babylon is meaningless? Of course not. All right, so some objects are lost. But yet, that does not mean the meaning is lost. All right? Objects can be gone, and yet the meaning is not gone. Another point. What do we notice? We notice that when we were kids, especially when we were infants, we were just a small bunch of things. When we were infants, you were only maybe this big. That's you. Now you're college students, you're big and fat and overweight. So, question, the object has changed, yes? And since the object has changed, maybe we should call you something else. All right? Like Irene. Irene used to be an infant. We'll call that Irene version 1. Now, she's a big lady. We will call her Irene version 3.2. When she gets old as I am, we'll call her Irene version 10.7. Does that happen? No, that does not happen. What are we trying to say? Things change, objects change, but that does not mean the meaning can change. So we have a problem. To say that words are names of objects, many ways it's useful, but not all the time. There are limits to it. All right? Anyway, you have there what we call referential theory of meaning. A generation later, that's the generation of John Locke. John Locke says, well, there's a problem truly with the referential theory of meaning, and even the inventor of it tells us so. So, why do we have to live with it? John Locke says, maybe we should come up with an alternative. And so, he comes up with an alternative. John Locke lived in the 1600s. He's the youngest of the bunch. All right? John Locke came a generation after. He says, look, supposing you have a professor. All right, professor. Let's come up with a professor. All right, there's the old professor. And he's looking at something. All right? Now, what's the point? Supposing now you have a professor looking at a glass of water. All right, there you have it, the glass of water. Notice that when a professor thinks about the water or reflects about the glass of water, remember reflection? He gets it into its head. Notice that it is not the object that goes into his head. The object is still here. What goes into his head is what? Is what you call a copy of the glass of water. So what's your copy? There you have it. You have a copy of it. And that's what you have inside the head of the professor. All right? The copy is what we call the idea. What's the copy called? The idea of the glass of water. So, Locke points out, it is not the object that we name when we use a term. The term is not the name of the object, the term is the name of the idea. Ayan. Alright? And this is what we call ideational theory of meaning. Ideational theory of meaning. There you go. So, chicken, easy. Easy to understand. Yes? Very useful. All right? So, when you have the ideational theory of meaning, you do not have the problems of of the referential theory of meaning. The object can be gone, but you still have the idea. And then the idea is so flexible that it can accommodate changes in the object because it's just a copy that can adjust, can change. All right? So, there you have it, ideational theory of meaning. We end up now with two classic theories of meaning. Now, what are the two classic theories of meaning? I already said so. Yay! I forgot to share again. Oh my God. Well, anyway, let me get back to what I've said earlier. Okay. Here it is. I'm so sorry. All right. Let me just repeat. John Locke points out. What does he point out? Supposing you have a professor like this. All right. And the professor is looking at a glass of water like here. Notice that when the professor looks at the glass of water, he thinks about the glass of water in his mind. When he thinks about the glass of water in his mind, all right, it is not the glass of water that goes into his mind. Rather, he makes a copy of the glass of water, and that is the copy that goes to the mind, not the object. The copy is what we call the idea of the glass of water. There you go. And so John Locke says, it is better to say that a term is the name of the idea rather than the name of the object. Ergo, the expression ideational theory of meaning from the word idea. All right? Therefore, ideational theory of meaning, all right? Idea, ideational. Okay? So, going back to what we've concluded, what's the conclusion? Ay, ay, ay. The conclusion is there are two classic theories of meaning. One is given us by Hobbes, the referential theory of meaning. The other is the ideational theory of meaning, Thomas Hobbes. All right. He gives us what? Referential theory of meaning. And John Locke, he gives us ideational theory of meaning. John Locke. All right. Ideational. And what are these called? These are called classic theories of meaning. Why are they called classic? That's the question. Why are they called classic? When you say classic, that means one, it's old, from the olden times. Two, used to be, emphasis, used to be useful. All right? Used to be useful. Oh, let me correct myself. Used to be useful. All right? Correction, please. Useful before, not anymore. Now, big question. We know there are limits to the referential theory of meaning. Now, what are the limits to the ideational theory of meaning? That's the big question. Because now we're still calling ideational theory of meaning classic. It is old and used to be useful, but not anymore. So, what's wrong with the ideational theory of meaning? Okay, think about it. What do you think? Okay, screen, yes, alright. Nag-screen na ako. Okay, what's the problem with the ideational theory of meaning? Okay. Supposing there are two individuals. 1, 2. Supposing they hear a series of tones. All right? A series of tones. A series of tones. A series of tones. All right? The point is, for one, what he hears is music. For another, what he hears is noise. Or another way of putting it, supposing the two individuals are looking at the same patch of color, in this case blue. All right? And looking at the same patch of color, we now ask the question, are they seeing the same thing? Because in the case of the series of tones, it has been possible to say they are not hearing the same things. Now, supposing we talk about color, when two individuals look at the same color, how can we say that they are looking at the same color? Well, very easy. How easy it is it? All right, Miss Lee, how can anyone, all right, I'm seeing your comment, Miss Lee, how can anyone say that he sees the same color as another? You see, to be able to say you're seeing exactly the same thing, you have to be conscious of the same thing. All right? That's the word, conscious. Can anyone be conscious of somebody else's consciousness? Can anyone be conscious of somebody's consciousness? You're familiar with the movie The Matrix. Supposing we have a contraption, and thanks to that contraption, we can connect the brain of this fellow here, like with the Matrix, to the brain of this fellow here. Can you be conscious of somebody else's consciousness? Is that actually possible? What am I trying to say? This is what we're trying to say. Miss Lee, we're trying to say that what? That ideas are private. Your idea of pain, that's why you have to write poetry. That's why you have to write songs. You want to express your pain. Your idea of pain is private. Ideas are private. But words are public. Words are public. So you have a mismatch. There is no coherence. Big question. And that's the reason why, and that's precisely now the reason why we say even the ideational theory of meaning is what? Is a classic theory of meaning. Now, conclusion. When two individuals have two frameworks of meanings, it can be said that they have two frameworks of ideas. And therefore, it can be said that they have two frameworks of meanings. And therefore, frameworks of concepts. And that's what you call conceptual framework. As young adults, up to the time you become old, you will come across this expression, conceptual frameworks. Another way of looking at philosophy is by looking at philosophy as conceptual frameworks. That's the last statement we will give you. Another way of looking at philosophy is looking at philosophy as a framework of words, a framework of ideas a framework of concepts, a conceptual framework. You move on from one conceptual framework to another, you get to see very different worlds. All right, I'm so sorry. We're at the end of our broadcast. Thank you for keeping me company. Please keep your comments coming. I will summarize them tonight. Your comments last meeting and your comments today, and we will deal with them next meeting. All right, and you can give your comments here or on the Google Classroom. Good afternoon. I am so sorry. There's not enough time. We'll catch up next meeting. Thank you. Peace, man.